Good afternoon and welcome to our Inside Emerging Technologies webinar, where we're today going to be talking about making AI your smartest new hire. And we'll get into that in just a moment. I am Sharon Pinder, President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council. Um, Check us out on www.crmsdc.org. We're a 53-year organization where we certify, we connect, we develop, and we advocate for minority businesses. I'm really excited about this series and this conversation today about artificial intelligence because there's a lot of controversy around it. I was listening to the news today and they were talking about the Grammy Awards and the issues associated with using AI and not AI and that kind of thing. What we're here today to talk about, don't be afraid, embrace it, and ask questions later. I'd like to welcome all of our customers and clients, our certified MBEs, or any business owners that have tuned in to us today, all of our corporate members that represent and support the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council, our clients from our Key Bridge Recovery Program, our clients from our Capital Region, I'm sorry, our Capital Readiness Program, and all of our partners there, and everyone who has our friends, foes, everybody who has taken the moment. This will be a powerful hour for you. And so we just say, just sit tight and be prepared to learn a lot, whether or not you're a novice, somebody just want to experiment or just find out or validate some things. Okay. So before we move on, let's go to the next slide. We're at the next slide, so sorry. I'd like to bring on the person that we're focusing on today, and her name is Agnes Kibirige. And Agnes, I hope I got that right. And guess what, Agnes? I looked up you on ChatGPT. I know a little bit about you because you were born in Uganda, lived in Kenya, by way of the UK before you came to the US and Maryland. But Chat told me a couple things about you. That you're a seasoned technology strategist, entrepreneur, and leader with more than 20 years of experience helping organizations leverage technology for impact and innovation. She is the founder and CEO of experTribe LLC as an IT consulting and technology strategy firm focused on empowering mission-driven organizations to strengthen connections, use data effectively, and unlock technology's full potential. So is that accurate?
It is. Thank you so much.
But it goes on to talk about some of your other experiences in terms of being a technologies and strategic IT planning, data-driven decisions, digital transformation, and that kind of thing. And then prior to founding experTribe in 2019, you spent 14 years at Accenture, of course, a global 500 consulting and technology services firm, rising to the level of senior management, and your work there built a strong foundation in technology implementation, consulting, and business integration. Is that accurate?
It is, yes.
Okay, very good. So we're on a roll but let's talk a little bit about you in terms of, I mean, with the background in technology, of course, you're going to, be on the we used to call the bleeding edge or leading edge of the introduction of this technology. But even though it's been around for a while, talk about why you started using AI.
So I started back in 2023 when all the hype was going on. Well, actually, AI has been around for a lot longer than the context of this presentation. Generative AI, which is what everyone's excited about right now, ChatGPT, that
Hmm.
really came to the fore around late 22, 23. And it coincided with me actually leaving my last job and coming back to experTribe full time. So I spent a lot of time just understanding ChatGPT and figuring out how it was going to help in my business. And
Hmm.
initially, it was helping me draft emails, do some of the research like you did, look people up and see who they were, and also start to think about, how I could, talk about my business on the web and then LinkedIn. And it really helped me speed up my communication because I usually have a head full of ideas and I don't know how to structure it and I don't know how to make it sound a specific way. But then the more I used it, the more my confidence grew, the
Hmm.
more it's just become part of my business. Um, so
And
I design my solutions with it. I analyze my clients' requirements with it. I've actually built a grant intelligence tool I'm actually co-founding another company as well, and we're going to be using AI to help biotech founders. And one of the things that was a challenge there was just knowing where all these grants were, especially after the upheaval. So I challenged myself to see if I could actually build the kind of solutions that I used to deliver when I was at experTribe, just using
sure.
AI. And yeah, I set up a team in AI and I did that. And I've also migrated my website off GoDaddy. So it's actually helping my business even in terms of the solutions that I deliver to my clients, as well as my emails and everything else. So I'm able to do a lot more on my own than I could have before.
Sound like as a serial entrepreneur, you've been able to leverage the technology not only to provide solutions to your clients, but to actually dig deep down and grow your business. That's what it sounds like. So let's take that. And so and this is the kind of expert that we do need. And so let's take that now, and I'm going to turn it over to you relative to making AI your smartest next hire. I hope you don't mind if I just hang around. I'm just so excited about this conversation. I hope you don't mind if I just hang around and listen to
Not,
you. Okay.
not at
Oh,
all.
by the way, ladies and gentlemen, put your questions in the chat. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end. And if we run out of time and don't get to all the questions, we promise to answer those questions as we make this information available to you. Okay. All right, Agnes, I'm ready.
And as I started talking, you can see how powerful AI can be. And some of the hype that's going around is AI is going to take people's jobs. What I believe is people who know how to use AI are going to take your job, right? And so hopefully, as
Mm.
you'll see through this presentation, the things that you can do with AI, how it can accelerate your own growth of your business, but also make you more effective. So you can do three, four people's job without having to actually hire those people. And if you're competing with someone like that and you don't have I think that's the thing you have to think about, or when deciding whether to use it or not.
One of the things, Agnes, I think I'm sorry, that we talk about is why we should care. But I'll let you talk about what you're going to cover.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk a bit about AI, what it is, how to use it without technical skills, and start to try and demystify it for those of us that maybe are not so enthusiastic about it. And then I'm going to have a practical example. I'm actually going to go in and show you how I use Claude and ChatGPT to help me with my business. And then before we leave, just some tips on how to use AI responsibly and a checklist that you can download and use as you start to use AI, hopefully tomorrow.
Before the end of the day.
For the end of the day.
Right.
Did you say you had a question before I
The question is why we should care about it. I mean, again, you hear all these things relative to um, some of the bad things around using AI, and it's going to, take over the world and Big Brother. But why, as business owners, why should business owners care about AI?
from my standpoint, I'll say it's actually a really great leveler. I'm able to punch above my weight because I know how to use this tool, and I think we should view it as something that will help us, address some of those imbalances. On the flip side, if we're not using AI and other people are, and AI is going to be what shapes tomorrow, then we're going to be at an even bigger disadvantage than we are now. So even though it might be daunting and scary, I think it's better to be at the table and understanding what's going on than get left out, and it's going to happen anyway.
So, do you think, and one of the things, the points I also wanted to make is that historically, when there's been an emerging industry, an emerging technology, those companies sitting around the table during the ground floor as they are emerging, they also grew as that technology or industry grew. And so here, and then unfortunately, historically, businesses of color have not been around that table. So here is an opportunity to grow with this technology in terms of your business as the technology is destined to grow.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Um, so just to quickly ground us on what AI is, and this is not an exhaustive slide. Essentially, AI has been around since the 60s. It started off in research labs, and ultimately, what artificial intelligence does is software is trained to recognize patterns and make predictions on large amounts of data. Patterns that human beings couldn't see, or certainly it would take them a lot longer to see the patterns. And using this, it's able to make some suggestions and summarize information and decisions. We're actually already using a lot of AI in everyday tools. If you watch Netflix, the recommendations you see on Netflix, if you use email, spam filters on email, banks use it for fraud detection to, figure out if someone is using your credit card illegally. Siri, Alexa, all of those are examples of AI. The thing that's new and exciting and that people are talking about is generative AI, which is actually able to create what appears to be new content. So it can write text, it can draft emails for you, summarize documents, and actually, as you'll see later on, you can have a conversation with it. So you can actually have a conversation with your data, and it can produce an output for you. So it appears to know things, and it's because of the power it has of, digesting large volumes of data and being able to predict what an answer will be or what to say next. So there's lots of tools out there. Lots of people are starting to embed AI into their software and into their platforms. And then we also hear about Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. So in this slide, I just want to give you a flavor of the tools and also how you can decide which tool to use. The top layer, the blue layer, is tools that do specific tasks. So people are using AI to make their tools even better and more intuitive. And a lot of those tools also have interfaces where you can interact in the context of that tool. So for example, meetings and notes, I use that a lot. Fireflies is my preference, but I've also used Otter. And the benefit is it acts like an agent. It will join your meetings for you. It will take all the notes. But the thing that I find really powerful is the insights I get. I can see how much I talked versus my clients. And then I can also have a conversation with the meeting or the collection of meetings. In one instance, a client contacted me like 3 o'clock on Friday and wanted a summary of all of the interviews I had done with their team. And I'd interviewed about 10 people at that point. If I did not have access to the AI in Fireflies, it would take me a long time to read through all the notes and try and summarize and then write the email that let him know what I had been doing. But I was actually able to go into the AI interface on Fireflies and ask a question, basically ask it, hey, Scott asked me to see what was going on with his team. Can you look through the meetings I've had and summarize what I talked about? And I was able to get him an answer in less than 10 minutes, which is an example of the productivity, because if I had to do that myself, it would definitely be much longer than 10 minutes. You have other tools on here like Notebook LM. You can actually have conversations with documents, your documents, or just random texts. So for example, I wanted to know what game theory was. I'd heard a lot about it, but I didn't quite understand. And all of the books are just so huge and so boring. So I was able to load them all into Notebook LM and ask it to explain it to me from the vantage point of a technologist and how game theory applies to me and my business. And so not only did it do that in a way that made sense, I could then turn it into a podcast. And right now you have video. So if you look at the top, the tools let you really, really interact with your data in the context of what you're trying to do. And then towards the end of the top row, you have, QuickBooks Copilot, Google Docs. Copilot is built onto the Microsoft platform. it actually uses ChatGPT, but in the context of Microsoft. So to be able to look at what's on your SharePoint, your emails, Excel, etc. So in deciding what to use, I would say think about what it is you're trying to do. And then if you're really looking for a specific task, look at a tool that's tuned to do that for you versus the bottom layer, which a lot of these tools are actually using. That is more flexible. That's wider. That will search the whole internet and you can have a conversation with it about everything versus the top layer is doing specific things. The next thing I wanted to talk about was some common myths. I think when people think about AI and try and understand what it is, there's some fear, but there's also some hesitation, where people think it might just be so technical that you need to first learn prompt engineering before you can interact with it, that you need to be perfect and ask it the right questions. I'd say unless you're developing software, you know, you can actually, AI can just meet you wherever you are. You don't even have to spell the things correctly because it's very good at figuring out what you're trying to say. You could do a stream of consciousness, whatever's in your head, put it down into the tool and have it help you structure your thinking, enrich your information with more knowledge. And the back and forth is actually what makes you both better. So what I'd say the reality is small businesses can benefit immediately from using AI exactly where you are.
Agnes, can you talk about just a moment in terms of the cost? Because when you make a decision about which tool, right? And I think based on the guidance you kind of gave us, but are they free or, is it wise to pay for them? What's your thoughts there?
I'd say the free version is a good place to start, and depending on what you're doing, that would probably meet most of your needs. The challenge becomes when you become dependent on it for your business, because a lot of times the free versions have limited capacity and they don't have all of the functions. But while you're experimenting and exploring, a lot of times the free version will give you a very good flavor, and then you can decide whether to invest in the subscription. So what I'd say is definitely try it out before you subscribe, because you can find yourself subscribing to several things, and they might not all be beneficial for you. And I'm seeing questions in the chat, so I'm looking forward to when we can answer them at the end.
Yes, we will.
And so on this slide, I really think about AI as having two superpowers if you use it the way I use it. On the one hand, you have expertise. So earlier I said, I don't know if I said this, but AI is trained on large volumes of data, and in this case, Claude and ChatGPT were actually trained on everything that was on the internet. I think in 2022, 23, or even before. They scraped literally everything on the internet, plus they fed it in some books, and it has continued to digest large volumes of data. So what you have is access to a person that's solved problems for businesses like yours across thousands of businesses. So you have a strategist, a researcher, an advisor that you can tap into to get, perspectives and a sounding board beyond your own experience. I actually also use it to train myself. So this is going to date me, but when I was growing up, my dad had the Encyclopedia Britannica, and whenever we had a question for him, he would say, "Go look it up in the encyclopedia." Well, imagine you have 100,000 times that at the tip of your fingers. You just need to figure out how to ask the question, and the data's there for you to use. So on the one side, it's an expert. It's a much better expert than you. So what I like to do when I have a question or an idea is to collaborate so that some of that expertise can infuse what I'm trying to do. And it's always good to start there. And then once you have gone a bit back and forth a bit, to then use it as someone that can actually execute something for you, right? So someone that can draft and organize and refine your work that never gets tired. you could refine something 100 times, you could change your mind, and it's always there. You could roll over in the middle of the night and think of something else, and it's always there, right? So you can use it to collaborate with you on strategic things, and then you can actually use it to write emails, create spreadsheets for you and documents, etc. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to switch out from the presentation and go into Claude and ChatGPT and show you some examples of using these tools. Before I did this, did you have any questions, Sharon?
The only thing I'm excited, we go see something real time. The only thing I have at this point is like, as you show us this, I'm real interested in understanding and we'll talk, I know we'll talk about this later. Once I put my information out there, how do I ensure the privacy piece? How do I make, I'm thinking that I'm contributing to the universe, but there are some things I don't want out there. Is there a way that you can show us how to make sure that my information remains my information? I can leverage everybody else's, but I like my information be my information.
Yes. That is a good segue into what I'm going to do next. Can everyone see my screen? So I set up two free plans, one for Claude, one for ChatGPT for this demo today. And if you can see at the bottom, I'm actually being Shonda today. And if you can see at the bottom left-hand side of my screen, you would see the name of the person that's logged in, the account essentially. You can go into the settings, and in the settings, there is a privacy setting, and help improve Claude. Allow the use of your chats to train and improve the model. You definitely want that to be off. You don't want the model to, you don't want to improve the model with your data, essentially. So that's how you switch that off in Claude. For the paid version, there's actually somewhere else where it actually stores your chats, and you can also switch that off. But if you've told it not to improve Claude, your data stays within the chat. But some people want to be extra cautious and delete the chats after they're finished working with it. You have access to that in the paid model, not in the free model. And then in ChatGPT, you have something similar. You again have a settings screen, and in the data controls, improve the model for everyone, right? You want to make sure that that's off. Okay, so back to our example. Today I'm being a fictional company that does logistics in the city of Baltimore, Chesapeake Gateway Logistics. I have a capability statement and I have some RFPs. And I want Claude to help me figure out which RFPs I should focus on so that I'm using my time effectively. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, actually, I should start here. I wrote this earlier, but you could literally type this in. And what I'm saying is I'm looking for new opportunities for my business. And I need some help evaluating some RFPs to see if I should pursue them or not so that I don't waste time on opportunities I have no chance of winning. I'm going to upload my capability statement, which will tell you about my business, and then the RFPs one at a time. After I load the first RFP, please do an assessment, give me a brief summary of what you found, and let me know if I should proceed. And I always like to say, does this make sense? Think about it, delegating to a new employee. Always ask it if it makes sense or this is what I do, so it can play back to me what it thinks I asked it to do. Okay, so it's just confirming back to me. Yep, makes sense. You'll upload your capability statement, then you'll load the RFPs. I'll do a brief summary, and then it makes you feel good because it always tells you how fantastic you are, which I like. So now I'm going to load the capability statement. Okay. So now it knows a bit about my business, right? So now putting in the first RFP. Okay. And it came back pretty quickly, recommending that I don't pursue it. And it's breaking down for me why I shouldn't. I don't have the right equipment experience. I don't have the licensing that I need. It's the wrong service model for me, and it's the wrong industry. Okay. Even though it said the bridge, that's a red herring, right? It's basically telling me not to go for this one. Okay. Let me try another one. And what I did for the purposes of this demo, I did summaries of RFPs, but you could actually put the whole RFP, all 50 pages in. It would just take a lot longer than we have time for. So for this one, it has recommended that I pursue this one. It's a 2-year contract. Why I'm an excellent fit. It matches my services. I have some key differentiators that I can leverage when I respond. I have the right certifications, the right track record, and there's no major barriers. And it's even telling me, some of the competitive advantages and like a few risks, but not so many. Okay. So I actually I have a third one, but I wanted to show you some back and forth, right? So at this stage, I saw that there was one that I shouldn't go for, and then there's one that I should. And I'm also wondering how else I could grow my business, right? So I might ask it a question around. And I also wanted to show you typing. You can literally in real time type. Okay. So it's giving me some advice around how it thinks the best way for me to grow my business in the next 6 to 12 months. And it can just keep going and going, right? One other thing I like to do when I'm collaborating with Claude or ChatGPT, because it goes and goes, is when I type my question, I like to say, could you give me the things one at a time so that I can react to what you're saying, I can respond, right? And then we move on to the next one. But you can see very quickly that it's given me some things that I can do to grow my business. Okay. So now what I want to do with the plan that it gave me, I can now copy this and I'll go to ChatGPT. So in ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is more creative, I find, than Claude. Claude is very good at chunking through information and analyzing it. So in ChatGPT, same thing. I want to load my capability statement in. And this time I'm trying to think about marketing myself so that I can, that I can grow my business. So I'm asking it to, okay, so I've got my capability statement, and then I've got everything that Claude just told me about how to grow my business. I can paste all of that in. So in real time, you'll see it's looked at the information that I gave it from Claude. It's looked at my capability statement, and it has a lot of suggestions for me. It's also explained to me how social media will help my company, right? And it's really in terms of what is it? It's not a lead generator, it's a credibility validator. So it's saying that for me, social media will help me because when people come and check, it will validate who I am, but it's not going to generate leads for me. Okay. So not going to read all of this for you, but just to show you that it gives you a lot of information really quickly. And if it's too much to digest, you can also tell it to slow down. But I just wanted to show you the wealth of information you get just from a few prompts. And then the next thing we're going to do is, right, it's actually had a hallucination. I've done this demo several times, and now it's doing an email. So let's see.
Can you explain what you mean by hallucination?
So I asked it to do a LinkedIn post, and instead it's done an email. So for some reason, so what happens with ChatGPT, every time you ask it a question, if you ask it the same question again, it tries to improve on the last thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it tries to be too clever. So I've done this, I practiced this demo like 3 times. The last 2 times it gave me LinkedIn posts, and now it's decided to do an email. So it always feels like it sometimes you just have to make sure you give it some guardrails because it can go off and do its own thing. So I'm just going to
Thinking that it
remind it.
knows, thinking that it knows better that what you want from to do.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes. This is
that's
the
interesting.
overconfident one,
Yeah,
right? So it
yeah,
tries to predict what you're going to do.
that's interesting. Can you also tell it then not to sound um, so AI-ish?
Yes. So what I do with my posts afterwards is I say, please don't sound so AI-ish. And I also say, don't sound too consultancy. Or I will say,
Hmm.
that doesn't sound like me. And what you're able to do, so if you can see, there's a projects folder. You can start to upload things like your capability statements, how you've responded to RFPs. So it learns your tone of voice, and then it gets better at sounding like you. But yeah, you can also, tell it, hey, I wanted a LinkedIn post, not an email. Thanks for the correction. And then so now it's gone away and it's done my LinkedIn posts.
Okay.
So you're able to, so then I would look at this. To your point, I could look at this one and say, I like this one, but I don't want it to sound so consultancy. And could you remove all of the M dashes?
Yes.
Don't make it look AI-ish.
Yes.
And it would go away and figure that out for you as well.
Hmm.
So that was the 2 demos. I could do a workshop on this for a day, 2 days, and really dive into it. But really, for the purposes of this, I just wanted to show you that from not knowing me 5 minutes ago, I now have some suggestions about how I can grow my business, and I'm now able to create some posts and copy paste them straight into LinkedIn.
But it's just the value of it is the time that you have spent in the past responding to proposals or figuring it out now can be at your fingertips. But the thing I take away, Agnes, is that I thought the accolades that they were given to me were, were, because of what I was doing. I didn't know they gave it to everybody else.
That's the
And
thing.
yeah, and
It's trying
Teresa,
to, yeah.
no, go ahead, Agnes.
It's a product just like every other product,
Hmm.
and if it makes you feel good, you're going to keep using it. So you also have to keep that in mind. You're clever, but you're probably not as clever as it's making you
I
sound.
thought I was. And Teresa, you're right. That's why human intervention is essential. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I have one more section that I wanted to talk about, and this is now. So now that you've started to use some of these AI tools and you understand how to interact with them, how to use it responsibly and make good decisions. Some of what we just started to talk about.
Right. And we were when you were just talking about earlier, when I said turned off the privacy things, et cetera, I remember when I started using this about a year ago, anything that was related to minority business, Black women, it was limited. Now, a year later, I see that there's a lot of things that are out there, even to the point that I can pull down articles and research and that kind of thing. Um, I know that, behind the curtain, there may be folks that are the experts that don't look like us. And so how do we ensure that we remove those biases, that we ensure that what's out there is um, incorporates all diversity of thoughts and experiences?
That's a really good question. I think more of us need to be out there, plug for myself, in the space, understanding what's going on so that we can advocate for ourselves. And I also know since 2023, because I remember when I was using ChatGPT in 2023, trying to do images, hey, do a picture of
Mm,
me. I was either looked like a man,
hmm.
like how they, I guess, perceive that Black people look, or at one point I was a tree. And if I asked too many
Yeah.
questions, hey, my nose doesn't look like that, my eyes don't look like that, then I was just white. And so people complained, and now I can actually get a fairly good representation of myself in ChatGPT, right? So, and I also know there's nonprofits out there that are actively loading information in so that we're represented.
Hmm.
So it's definitely important for us to see ourselves represented, but also if this is the future, if this is how decisions are going to be made by police or banks or who knows what, then we need to be represented. Otherwise, it just puts us at even more of a disadvantage. Um, and so, again, all of this is really compressed, but just some tips and things for you to watch out for. We already touched on some of these. Data privacy and trust, right? We just went in and we checked those settings to make sure that your data isn't being used to train the model. Something else, don't put sensitive information in it. So don't put your PII in there, passwords, proprietary secrets. What I've noticed is every so often they'll change where that turn off my don't use my data is, and you have to keep going back and checking that they haven't added a new thing. Um, and also, just in case they get hacked and then all of your information is in there, right? You just want to make sure that you're not putting sensitive information in there. Check the outputs and always ask how the AI arrived at the answer to counter hallucinations, right? For example, I asked for a LinkedIn post, it did an email. Somewhere in there, it got confused. So you should always be, um, don't be hands off with it. Always be interacting with it, always be interacting with the content and understanding how some of those answers were arrived at. Um, we touched a bit on this bias and assumptions. AI was trained on a large, imperfect set of data, right? Because a lot of things about us, so I'm from Africa, like you said. I'm also a Black female entrepreneur, and there wasn't much on the internet when the internet was scraped. I remember one of the first things I did with ChatGPT was I was looking for some sayings for the back of my business card, and I asked it to give me some sayings from some influential Black female leaders, or you couldn't find any of those. And so then I said Black leaders, and all I was getting was slavery and Nelson Mandela, and I'm like, I'm sure there's more out there than that, right? So, but it only knows what it was trained on. So it's going to reflect all the historical biases that are built into the system. Dominant perspectives, it was mainly created by white men in Silicon Valley. Uneven representation. An aunt of mine asked what the typical life of a African woman in the 60s was, and she was very shocked by the answer she got. And again, it's because of what was put in to train it. So always be conscious of that, and always try and add your own data so that it can give you less biased information, especially if you're going to be sharing that with someone else. And then the other thing I'll say is be careful not to create an echo chamber for yourself. Because as we saw, it's praising you, it's telling you how great you are, but also it's shaped by the data that you give it, right? And you only have your perspective. And so you can really reinforce your biases,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's going to respond to the answers that you ask, which is why I always say collaborate a bit to get some additional ideas infused into what you're doing before you rely on it. And I always like to ask it, what assumptions am I making? Or even better, after I think I've come to a conclusion, hey, play devil's advocate, right? Give me the other side of this so that I can make sure I have like a well-rounded opinion before I proceed. And the final thing is, we were talking earlier about how it was trained and how it continues to be trained. So what it puts out there might look like something that's already out there. Um, but the point is, two ways to think about it. If you then copy something that was created by AI and put it on your website or in an email, you now own that, right? Um, I know there's been court cases where lawyers relied on something that came out of ChatGPT. Once you put it out there as yours, it's yours and you're accountable for it. So you just want to make sure, and you can always, as best practice, when you're thinking about using something on your website or as a tagline, just do a double check and ask if someone else is using this, if it always already exists. And be very careful what you put on the internet and out there, because that's going to end up in someone else's chat GPT. So those are just three high level best practices that I would recommend thinking about as you proceed.
This is outstanding. I've learned so much. Thank you, Agnes. As we kind of, oh, I'm sorry, there's a
Oh,
checklist. I'm sorry.
there's
I'm
the
going to
check.
go back
Sorry,
on
but
mute.
also if you have any questions, I'm glad to take them at any stage.
Yes. Please put questions in the chat because we have another,
Yeah.
some folks are going to take the questions and have that part of the conversation as well.
So this is a quick checklist you can download today to help you think about what to do before you start using AI, while you're using it, before you use the output from it, and just ongoing, so that you are making the best use of it and making good decisions. And this is the final closing slide from me. And the message is you don't have to change how you work, just who you work with. And in this case, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, all the plethora of tools that are out there. So just try one task this week. Let AI help you think it through, and again, collaborate with it, clarify, and then delegate, so that it amplifies what you're doing. So for me, my story is I can do a lot more now than I could before AI, and it's for me it's $20 a month. I mean, I pay for both of them. It's $40 a month, but it's helping me in so much. It's definitely worth that money.
Okay. Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. So I know we're going to open it up to Q&A before we have a few minutes to kind of do that. And I think Tommy and Ken are coming on to field some of the questions. While we're waiting for that, you said that you use both Claude and ChatGPT. And could you repeat what, in what cases you use Claude versus Chat?
Okay. I find Claude to be more pragmatic and more honest, and I also do a lot of coding. And so
That's right.
Claude
You
is
did say
much
that.
better at the coding.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to use Claude for thinking through bigger, more complex issues. And then ChatGPT is very creative. So anytime I want to do social media posts or modify my LinkedIn, or write emails, I find ChatGPT to be better at that. But also, so what happens with Claude is with either of them, you run out of capacity, right? You only have so many tokens a day. And if you've become a bit dependent on ChatGPT, on AI, it's good to have a backup.
You're talking about the
Um,
free versions.
so there's different levels of paid version. The pro
Okay.
version is the cheapest paid version. And so for
Okay.
both of them, you're talking about $20 each. And then the next level up, you're looking at, in Claude, certainly you're looking at $100. So
Mm-hmm.
for $40, I'm able to use AI all day. because when Claude runs out, I can jump onto ChatGPT and vice versa. So I have a bit of a fail-safe just in case something came up and I wanted to get to my agents. I don't have to wait till the next day.
Okay. And making these decisions is something that you do for your clients,
Yes,
supporting that.
indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you all, let me see what's going on here. Do you all want me to, um,
So you are ready? There are
yeah,
6 questions in the Q&A, and there are several questions in the chat. So I'll start with the Q&A tab. And one question is, could you please explain migrated website from GoDaddy?
Oh, okay. So I've had my website on GoDaddy for 3 years, and I I was looking at some of the tools. I did some research in Claude and ChatGPT, and I found out that there was a way for me to, well, I already know how to code with Claude, but then I also figured out I could host it on, there's a product called Vercel, but also there's other tools out there. I don't know if Replit has it, but you can essentially go in and ask it, hey, what would it take for me to migrate my website off GoDaddy? And it gave me a recommendation. And then I said, give me a step-by-step guide.
mm,
You know, one step at a time. Let me do the step, come back and confirm, and then let's move on to the next step. And in between, if I got stuck, I took a screenshot. Hey, I'm on this screen. I'm stuck. What am I supposed to do? And between that and I used ChatGPT to help me with the images and whatever and the wording. I created a website in a tool called Next.js, and I am now hosting it on my Vercel for free instead of $20 a month on GoDaddy. I'd say part of why I'm able to do this also is because I used to do this for clients and for myself. But yes, what everyone is saying right now is software is going to become even more of a commodity.
mhm.
And with tools like Code, I don't know if you've heard about vibe coding, but you can actually just create your own stuff if you need some rigor, right? You need to know how technology works. But I'd say for a technologist like me, more and more, I'd rather create my own tools and my own versions of things than try and squeeze myself into someone else's. So I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, um, you can get a
Uh,
systematic approach and move if you want.
Okay. So the next question is, which AI tools, and I think you touched on some of this, but which AI tools are approved to be used within the federal government with limitations like CMMC, NIST, and FISMA?
I do not know the answer to that. Um, I would, if I had to answer it for a client, I'd go do some research in
Okay.
the AI tools, and I'd also
No,
reach out
fair
to
enough.
But you know what? Along that same line, I was with a client recently, and now corporations are making decisions as to what's the corporate level enterprise tool that they use. In this particular case, was a large bank, and they said that they have their specialists there, and they made a decision to do Copilot, for example, and their rationale was around security. So I would imagine that for some of this, the decisions are still being made as well, but we certainly would appreciate any feedback, relative to any research that you do have.
And actually, that sparked you actually made me remember an article that I read. So Copilot, Microsoft has a deal with ChatGPT, and it has big government contracts. And so one
Hmm.
of the benefits of Copilot is it stays within the enterprise.
Yes.
So a lot of people are using Copilot because you can prevent it from going out to the internet and sharing information like that. And I know that I feel like Claude might have some arrangement as well. So I know that these OpenAI and Anthropic are in conversations to create versions of their software that can be used in the federal government, etc. So I think what I would say if I was doing a federal contract is I wouldn't use my own version of Claude and ChatGPT, but I would contact them and ask them if they have a version that is approved for using their data to do specific things. and maybe tackle it like that.
Okay. Next question is it possible to get AI to develop a dashboard for you in a software tool you use at work, or will it just give you directions on how to do that?
So you can now get coding agents. So for example, I have Claude Code, which is actually, it interacts with the files on my machine and it actually writes me the code. And I know that ChatGPT has different tools now have agents. The risk is they have access to everything on your machine. So you really need to trust that agent, but it can create files, write code, and create a dashboard. But back to the conversation we were previously having, you just want to make sure that it's approved by your IT department, and that your information is going to be safe once you allow the tool, to start interacting with it.
Okay. As we wrap, we probably can take like one or two more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see. I said, is there a way to automate search and analysis processes?
The short answer is yes. What I would do if you were my client is we would take some time to understand what you're looking for and how you want to do it, and then design a workflow that ties into what you're doing. And then there's a variety of tools that you could use to actually implement such a solution.
Okay. I think, boss, that's all the key questions. I mean, will
Oh, I think
we
I saw a question about the code.
about the code?
Why
About
does
Uh,
it?
uploading the RFP, that one. Then there was one about how can I use chat to write my book, I think. But we have about one more minute to take a question. So, Agnes, was there one that you wanted to respond to?
Why does AI need access to the files in my machine to write code? Why can't I just give it the pertinent files information needed? Um, I would um, I would take that one offline, and I would say, for example, I downloaded Cursor, which Cursor and Windsurf, which use Claude and AI, ChatGPT to write code. And you have to be very careful because it will ask you for permission, and you have to be very careful. You're right to just give it permission to a certain folder or certain files on your machine. But I guess what I'm hesitant about is giving it access to any part of my machine,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unless I'm very sure, because
Mm-hmm.
it feels to me like it might then be able to gain access to other places. But that's just me and my hesitation. So,
Which would be wise to take into consideration. Okay. So at 1:58, we want to wrap where we are. And yes, the answer to the question of will I get slides in the recording? Yes, we will make that available to you, as well as the contact information for Agnes, because she would be a great essential person to have in your businesses as you explore and implement and improve upon using this technology. I'd like to, at this particular point in time, thank our team in terms of the this particular emerging market webinar, and of course, in conjunction with our Key Bridge Recovery Program, but also, and then of course, our Capital Readiness Program. And so to the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council team, in particular, Renee Sanford and Nicole Miles and Jolie Guerrera and Latoya Moore, of course, Tommy Marks, and Joan Harrison, Errol Taylor, and Christine Bivens. We say thank you. And look for us to have upcoming conversations. We love this conversation today. We have upcoming conversation in the emerging market industry piece. You saw us do something on cannabis. We're going to take that cannabis tour. We're going to continue to have AI conversations. We're going to explore the utility industry in conjunction with our foundations program. We have an upcoming MBE Input Committee breakfast, as well as our Capital Readiness Program, exploring things like determining cash flow. And of course, I mentioned cybersecurity. There will be a whole lot of things. Look at our website in order to do that. As we continue the conversation, our goal is to help our businesses build capacity and to leverage technology, to leverage what they have at their fingertips in order to help do that. Tommy, have I
Well,
forgotten anything? Renee or anybody, have I forgotten anything?
no, you didn't. But if I could, one alibi, it was on the AI with the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
Best place to go right now is to gsa.gov and search AI tools. And because GSA is the portal for all things, especially IT, as the government in its last years combined. But there are approved, and Agnes mentioned about potentially Copilot being one of the approved sources based on what the government
Mm-hmm.
uses, and that they
Right.
list that.
Right. Has spoken as our internal guru in the federal government space and look for the future as what we're going to launch something as relates to that as well. So I think we got us to 2:01. We want to give you back, of course, the rest of the day. This has been an exciting conversation. Thank you so much, Agnes, CEO and founder of experTribe, for sharing the information with us. We are
Thank you
better
so
people
much for
because
having
of it. All right
me.
now.
Thank you.